Welcome to the Love Live Rocking Podcast, or Love and Live Rocking, whichever you want to take it. Our guest tonight is the wonderful Molly Fine. Molly, how are you doing?
I'm good, Wilmer. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Listen, we're about to end the month of January as we're recording this, and it's kind of cold, but it begs the question, when are you playing next?
We're playing next Friday at Legacy Hall, which is an outdoor venue, and we've all been looking at the weather apps to see what we're expecting, and we're looking at 20s around about the time we hit the stage. So a little worried about that, but hopefully they won't cancel, but hopefully people will come out.
Okay, well, now that you mentioned that, have you played this venue before?
We have, yes. This is actually the third band that I will have performed at the venue. I've performed it in INTXS, and then also with a band called the Doggensteins, which is an Oktoberfest band. It's rock polka.
Okay.
It's a cover band. Primarily we play during the Oktoberfest season, but sometimes in April or June, here and there in Garland. Legacy Hall, we played there in June, I think. It was very warm. I feel like I'm always hitting the stage there when the weather is challenging.
Okay. Have you played shows in January or early February in years prior that are open door venues?
Oh yeah. So I'm familiar with that outdoor cold. One time we played a gig and at Gas Monkey Bar and Grill, which is outdoors. Now they've got it much more well covered than they used to, but it was a lot more open. And it was in December, and there was like a freak cold spell that came in with mist, and it was miserable. Nobody was expecting it to be that bad, but just at the last minute, it was like, oh great, this is going to be challenging.
you call it freak, but I'll call it Texas weather.
That's about right. That's
Great. So listen, for a lot of people, a podcast can be accessed later in time, so maybe some of them will be listening after that show at Legacy Hall has happened. If they want to find out about your latest or upcoming shows, where can they head to? Is there a website, a Facebook page where you will invite people to check for your future shows?
Yeah, we've got Facebook, WeBop Band, 3 words. That's pretty much where we keep the schedule the most up to date, what we've got going. But we've got a website too. WeBopBand.com. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. So, any of those places, we're going to post for those.
WeBop, based on what? Where do you get that name from?
Oh, it comes from the song She Bop, of course. But since it's our band, it's WeBop.
Okay. So I remember the first time I saw you playing WeBop, and I was mesmerized. I am a big fan of Cyndi Lauper. So we're going to touch a little bit on her musical career as well. So I want to ask you, was Cyndi Lauper one of your favorite artists growing up?
Oh, yeah. She was my very first cassette tape, the She's So Unusual.
Really?
When it came out in like 83, I was like 7 years old. It was my very first cassette tape, my very first cassette tape player.
Okay.
And so I wore that thing out. And yet I still have it. I still have that same cassette tape. I've kept it all these years.
The very same copy that you had when you were 7 years old?
Yep. It's
That's
I don't have a cassette tape player anymore that I could play it on, and I don't know if it'll work, but I still have it just in case.
So the fandom is real about Cyndi Lauper, because I know that sometimes artists choose a band or an artist to play tribute to based on other factors, but in your case, was it just like, if I'm gonna do one singer, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, if I could do any band, any singer to tribute, it would be Cyndi Lauper. That was the dream, and things worked out to make it happen.
Okay.
So.
Have you ever met her?
No.
Have you ever...
Wilmer, I haven't even been to one of her concerts. That's my big failure, is I've never been to one of her concerts. I've never got to see her perform live.
How so?
I wish I could meet her. That would be wonderful.
Well, we gotta remember that when you said you were 7 years old, and that says me that the time
I was
asking the question about your age. I mean, whoever wants to figure out your age has to do the math. But
I'm not shy. I'm 45 years old.
45 years old. Molly, what is a 45-year-old woman doing doing pop music on stage, playing with a full band behind her?
Well, I don't feel 45. I feel like I'm Cindy's age, when she was doing it back then. Although
How old
she
was
wasn't,
she when
she wasn't young. She was in her 30s, I think, by the time She's So Unusual came out. She was in the is it Blue Angels, the group before. It never really got any traction and really got anywhere. But by the time she really hit it big, just as a solo artist, She was in her 30s. So, I mean, I feel like I'm in my 20s up there, trying to do Cyndi Lauper as, as it should be, as she should be done.
Okay.
But, I can't really see myself stopping anytime soon either. I hope I can. I don't know how ridiculous it would be for me to do Cyndi Lauper in my 70s, but I don't want to stop. So,
Well, she's 68 now, and she's still performing
she's
live,
still cooking
so-
it. So why not?
Yeah.
Yeah, she looks great.
I was drawn to a phrase. You said, "I feel like I'm in my 20s when I'm up there on stage." How about off stage? How do you feel? How is life off stage?
Well,
for
okay,
Moni?
so I don't feel like I'm in my 20s. I don't feel like that was my best decade, but I feel like, I'm reliving my 30s. How about that? That's to me, the 30s is a real fresh age. So, I think that's the best decade personally. So I feel like I'm in my 30s
Well,
again.
I'm in my late 40s, and I gotta beg to differ. I think the 40s are the best decade so far.
Hey, they're not bad. I will say that, in my daily life, loving my 40s, but performing,
awesome.
getting up there, it does feel like it takes some years off. You do
Yeah.
feel,
Now, you said
younger up
that
there.
in your 20s, it was quite an interesting time. Any special things that come to mind to make you define it as interesting?
Oh, not really. My 20s weren't all that interesting.
Were you playing
I
music
feel like,
back then?
I didn't know who I was yet in my 20s. Maybe some 20-year-olds do, but
Okay.
I still hadn't found myself yet. So I still felt like a kid, trying to figure things out.
And I'll tell you one thing. For those people that are listening that I have never seen WeBop, even if you're not a Cyndi Lauper fan, you're going to have a heck of a great time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Like yourself, discovered Cyndi Lauper in 1983 with that album, which was massive. It was huge, even in my country, in Latin America. We heard a lot of the songs. But then she disappeared. And I
know.
still remember her music a lot, but my children were almost completely unfamiliar with her, except for, of course, one song that has popped back up in movies and soundtracks, which is great. But when we saw you perform live, we were just completely mesmerized. Like,
Great.
I was going crazy there. I still remember that opportunity to see you perform, and I can't wait to see you again. But let's go back a little bit to the start. When was your first performance ever? Was it at a high school play? Was it in middle school? When did you first start with this music bug in your life?
Okay, so you have to go really far back to elementary school.
Okay.
I have very vague recollections of doing Wizard of Oz in elementary school. I did get to play Dorothy. I don't remember a lot of it, but I know that's my first live performance. And then jumped to middle school. I did show choir. We did musicals, and then same in high school, show choir, musicals, and then I in college I was doing a little more of the art scene, but I still got in the theater program and did musicals there and some theater. We like to go to the karaoke bar, sing there.
Do you still go?
Not right now, but a couple of years ago I was going regularly. There was one that I lived in the Austin Ranch area, and there was a place there that had a karaoke every Tuesday. And so I was going every week there because it's right down the street. It was so convenient. I could walk there. So I was a regular at that time.
If you make up your mind and decide to go again, you should announce it from stage and say, "Hey guys, next weekend is going to be a Molly Fine karaoke party."
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah, that could be another gig on your under your belt.
Very true.
So
very true.
going back to what you were saying about elementary school, where did you go to elementary school at?
Lakewood Elementary School in
Okay,
Dallas.
here in Dallas.
Yes,
Okay.
I was born and raised here in Dallas. So the only time I left was for college. I went to Corpus Christi. There's
Okay.
a Texas A&M down there.
You could not leave Texas, huh?
Nope. I thought I would too. I really thought I would, but no, just it's keeping me here. So
Okay.
And I love
What do
this. I love the music scene here. So
Yeah, we're going to talk about that a little bit, but tell me about college. What did you go to college for? Did you study a creative arts career?
Oh yeah. I Bachelor of Arts in Arts. Yeah, I thought for a long time I was going to be an illustrator. But that's a tough world to get into.
Yeah,
It's
a
kind of
lot of
like
them are.
trying to sing or act professionally. You got to have representation, and nobody wants to represent you unless you're published.
Yeah.
So.
But nobody's going to
but-
publish you unless you got a representation.
Exactly. It's a vicious cycle. So then I got into graphic arts, and I'm a graphic designer now. So that's what I've
Okay,
been
so
doing
that
ever
is what you
since.
do for your day job.
Yes,
And when
I
do
got to
you-
do something creative.
Yeah, so really expressing yourself creatively is in every aspect of your life, both in your main job during the week and also what you choose to do with your time on the weekends and whenever you can perform, right? It's everything about art.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic.
I've gotta need an outlet,
So
almost
when you say
all
that
hours of the day.
you wanted to be a graphic designer or an illustrator, can you tell us what inspired you to think about that for a career path? Or were you into comic books? Were you like myself? I wanted to be an illustrator because I was fascinated by the cover art of
Hmm.
heavy metal albums, and I wanted
Gotcha.
to
Hmm.
draw them.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Very
would have
cool.
never thought of doing a comic or anything else. In your case, what inspired you to be thinking about becoming an illustrator?
Comic books, definitely.
Okay, any
Those
favorites?
covers are amazing. Japanime, and then I really liked to read fantasy fiction, and some
Okay.
of those had some great artwork on the covers. And even I mean, even greeting cards and calendars. You
Hmm.
see, just all these like there's some artists out there that just have these wonderful styles, and that's why I wanted to do that. So album covers, CD covers, all kinds of places you get inspiration from when you want to be an illustrator. It's there's so much art out there everywhere.
What are some of your favorite album covers?
Honestly, I couldn't tell you. Those were not as big of an influence. I didn't buy a lot of albums when I
Hmm.
was younger because I liked songs on their own.
Okay.
So it wasn't for me so much. There are artists and bands that I really like for them, but more for me, it's each song itself. So my influences were more from books. The covers for books and comic books.
Do you recall some covers of books that really draw you in?
Not necessarily the books, but a couple of my favorite artists are fantasy artists.
Okay.
Charles Vess is one of them. He did the artwork for Neil Gaiman's Stardust
Oh,
graphic novel, and
okay.
I love his artwork. And then Alan Lee did
Hmm.
a lot of the artwork for the just the Tolkien
Hmm. The
stuff.
Lord of the Rings?
The Lord of the Rings. He did a lot of artwork for that. And then there's Brian Froud, who
Hmm.
did artwork for the Labyrinth, uh,
Okay.
the
That ended up
Labyrinth
being the
movie.
movie with
Yeah, he
David.
designed all those goblins and creatures and whatnot.
Oh,
So yeah,
okay.
so
So
those are my favorites, and then of course those are all fantasy related. So
I
yeah.
see. Interesting. So when you were growing up, like in middle school, in high school, did you ever lose yourself into a drawing and say drawing? And the thing that comes to mind is a lot of my friends from 30 years ago would still remember me as the guy who would be spending the whole class period drawing a heavy metal logo to perfection. Like if
Nice.
they saw a logo that looked exactly the same, they didn't need to ask who did it.
Hmm.
And I am currently a teacher, and I have some students that spend the whole 45 minutes, no matter what we're doing, they have a pencil on their hand and a piece of paper on their desk with their Chromebook on the side. And I'm impressed how they still are able to do their work, the work that I've assigned during the day, and yet
And
end the
that.
period with a beautiful illustration. So I'm in awe
Yeah.
of that. Was that the case with you, Molly? Were you a person who spent a lot of class periods drawing?
Oh, you know what? I feel like I should say yes because that's so cool, but no, I was a
Okay.
really diligent student.
Oh, you were very dedicated to your
Yeah, I
classes.
was a straight A student, so I was always doing the work in class.
Well, that's very cool. Listen. This podcast is supposedly, or hopefully, at least my children will listen to it. So if you say that you're a diligent A student, we gotta praise you for that. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
A's are cool.
Thank you.
Okay, so when did you begin thinking more seriously about it? Then was when you decided which college to go to, which career to enroll into.
Um, I again, I don't have a cool answer for that. I really wanted to get far away from home, but I had to
Okay.
stay in Texas. I know those
Hmm.
tuition fees can be
Oh, I
monster
see.
if you go out of state. So
Yes.
I thought, well, what's the furthest away from Dallas? The coast.
Okay.
So, there's Texas A&M down in Corpus Christi. That was about the furthest away I could get. So, and I'd never lived by the ocean, or
Uh-huh.
near the ocean anyway. So I thought that'd be cool. That's a different lifestyle.
So you went to Corpus Christi in the mid '90s, it seems.
Uh-huh. Yep. Yeah, I
Okay.
graduated high school in '94, so
Okay, so
started
were you
college
familiar with
that
the
that
musical
fall.
Selena? Because she was huge
Oh, I
in
love
Corpus Christi.
Selena. Oh
Really? Tell me
yes.
about it.
Oh, she was beautiful. Love her music. The statue downtown. Very that was already up. I'm trying to think if that was already up when I was there. But they have that memorial to her
Yeah.
down there where you can visit. No, she was just so cool. There's a little boutique down down there. That was a Selena boutique. Yeah, no, that story is such a tragedy, but she was just so cool, and she had the most
Have you seen
beautiful
the movie?
voice. Oh yes, oh
Yeah.
yes, yes, yeah.
I've seen the movie.
Oh, J Lo
Actually,
did a great job, didn't she?
she did an
Golly,
impressive job.
jeez.
I am not a big fan of her in any of her areas, not as a singer, not as an actress, but when I see
Yeah.
her there, she
She did
captures
such a
the
good job.
essence. Yes, she's impressive.
I'm right there with you, Wilmer. I mean, I could take her, leave her. Really, I mean, she
By
just,
now, I've seen that
she just
movie.
doesn't really resonate with me. Her work,
Yeah.
otherwise, but oh, she did a great job as Selena. That was
By now,
yeah.
I've seen that movie about 10 times at least. I show it to my
Nice.
students as far as
Nice.
getting them immersed into the whole Spanish thing. I'm a Spanish teacher.
Yeah. Mhm.
And I am just mesmerized by her performance because then I compare to some of the real news clips of the era, some of the real concert footage, and how she captured the essence of that
It was,
life.
yeah. Oh yeah,
It's
she hit it. She nailed it.
unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So let's go back to Cyndi Lauper. You said that you were not much into albums as a whole. So I am guessing that you decided to buy the Cyndi Lauper tape based on a song or two that you might have heard on the radio. Do you recall how that process went?
I think my dad actually just bought it for me.
Your
I
dad
think
bought
he
you the
just
tape.
randomly bought it for me. And I'd already heard, some of her songs on the radio, of course, because they released some of those songs. But I don't remember if I asked for it or if my dad just surprised me with it. It was
Okay.
like, oh, let me get this Cyndi Lauper cassette tape with this cassette player.
Is your dad still around, Molly?
He is. He's in
Okay.
Dallas too. Yeah.
Awesome. Has he come and see you perform live?
He hasn't been able to see the Cyndi stuff yet. He has watched me do some of my Oktoberfest, the rock polka. He's
Okay.
been able to see that.
Are you
but yeah,
hoping, or have you guys talked about him coming to see you do the WeBop band show anytime soon?
I'm going to keep badgering him about it. Yes, I mean most of our shows are in Dallas, so he should be able to get out there. So
Yeah, no,
I may
whatever
just have to
excuse you-
kidnap him one time and bring him.
Well, you tell me, I'll do this work for hire for you. And
Nice.
listen, if he tells you to stop bugging me with that, say that is your fault. You bought me that
Yeah,
tape.
it's all his fault. He
Whether-
put that bug in me with that cassette tape,
Whether
with that
you
gift.
asked for the tape or whether it was his initiative, he ended up buying it for you. Tell me about the music that you guys heard at home. Like when you were a little kid, besides Cyndi Lauper and the radio, do you remember your parents having any kind of favorite music?
Yeah. My mom liked a lot of easy listening. My dad, they weren't together. They split up when I was about 4. But my dad, what I remember most about my dad playing was like the Christmas albums during Christmas.
Which
he had-
Christmas
He
albums?
had kind of
Back in '93,
Oh.
one of my favorite albums was released. It was the Amy Grant Christmas album. Are you familiar with that one?
yeah.
Really?
Oh, I'm sure I've heard it. She has a beautiful voice too. I love Amy Grant. Yeah, I grew up listening to her when she was doing the religious
Yes.
music before
I
she
discovered
kind of
her
switched. I
8
think she's
years
gone back
later
to it, but
in '91. That's how I discovered her through her pop singles. But when I went back to
Yeah.
look for the discography, that particular Christmas album was a favorite, and still is a favorite. I certainly love Christmas music. So your dad listened to a lot of Christmas music. Do you remember if he ever had any favorite artists, or if he talked about any artists, or if he had a record collection dedicated to one artist?
Yeah, he had a record. He still has the record collection. It's a lot of Christmas music, and it's more variety artists, from the 50s and 60s. He likes musicals.
Hold on.
I got into old musicals from my dad, so.
You're saying he's got a record collection from the 50s and 60s.
Oh yeah.
Have you talked to him about passing that on to you? Because
Yes, I
Molly,
have.
That's going to be worth
I've
a
talked to my brother as well, and he's all right with it. We're not going to
Okay.
fight over it.
lot. So you're gonna keep it.
Oh yes. Oh
That's
yes.
awesome.
Oh
That's
yeah. I'm gonna
awesome.
take good care. It's and then the record player is one of those big console things, that's
He
like a
still
piece
has
of
that old
furniture
record player?
with the sliding door and everything.
Yeah, I think they're
And it's
called
full of
Victrolas.
records, so-
Victrolas, I believe, are the name that come even with 4
Oh no, he
legs.
doesn't have a Victrola.
Okay. So
Not
what
not
about
quite
your mom?
that far back.
Is your mom around?
Yeah, she is. She is.
Has she seen
She
you
likes a
play
lot
live?
of old country. Oh yes. Yep.
Okay.
Couldn't be more proud. Of
Awesome.
course.
That's great.
That's what they're
So,
they're supposed to be. So.
yeah, absolutely. My father is actually the person who really got me into the whole music scene. I come from a non-English speaking country, and a lot of the kids in my block, they used to listen to the pop radio, but mostly in Spanish, except that when 82, 83 came around, both Michael Jackson and Prince and Wham hit it
Right.
big, so we were very familiar with their music. But it was just an odd song on the radio, except for Michael Jackson, of course, that had like 7 of the same album. But it was my father who even earlier had become a huge fan of 70s classic rock. His favorite bands were Led Zeppelin, Black Sabbath, Boston, and Grand Funk Railroad. And
Yeah.
my first words in English I learned because of a Boston record.
Oh,
So
cool.
yes, yes. So I learned a lot. So I have a lot of connections between what classic rock is and my father, who's been gone for over 20 years. And I always love to talk about other people, how they developed this love for music since they were little kids. Now, you said that in your forming years, you were more into performing in stage plays and everything. When do you recall that you began singing? Did you sing at an early age, just not in public, or was it something that you began thinking more about doing later in life?
Yeah, I don't think I really sang in public until, middle school and high school, the musicals and the choirs.
In the musical still, as part of a
Yeah.
performing a play, not necessarily focus only on
Correct. In
singing
front of
rock
people.
songs or pop songs.
Yeah, that was probably, college and after. Wanting
Okay,
to be in a
what
band.
really? Tell me about it. Do you recall your first band?
Yeah, it is a cover band called Unknown,
Okay,
which is ironic because we still are. Um, and that was like 70s, 80s, 90s,
okay.
aughts.
Were,
Just
were
kind of
you the
all over
singer in
that
that
board.
band?
I was, yeah.
How did that band come together? Was it a college band?
No, it was my ex-husband and I formed the band.
Okay.
I don't even know, it's maybe 15 years ago or something like
Did
that,
you form it when you were dating, or did you form it after you had gotten together?
while we were dating.
Okay. Tell me about that process. How did the idea come out? It was like, hey, honey, do you want to just start a rock and roll band and sing covers?
Yeah, it was really like, it was his, this is a little bit, this is well after college, so that I was not thinking I was going to be in a band or anything. This is my 30s. And it was his dream, because he liked to play the guitar. So, and he knew I sang. So, he basically was, bugged me and badgered me about it until I agreed. So,
Awesome.
so yeah, and then we,
I've asked you this about your parents, so I gotta ask this about the former. Has he seen you perform live? Now, after him, after you not
no,
together? Okay.
no, I haven't seen him since we split. So
Not on those
that's
terms.
it.
Yeah,
In
I
the
get-
past.
Absolutely, no, I completely get it. I myself have been married in the past before, and however, there is one neat memory that my former spouse left with me. When my dad died around '99, we had spoken for 5 years, and it was a little bit of a bitter split. And my assumption was, oh, he's gonna be around for another 10 years. We'll have enough time to make
Yeah.
up. But he passed when he was 49, and I just stay with the most recent memories, were not very nice of him. And I was thinking the other day, 6 years later, we had moved together to Dallas. We were at a Dallas intersection by a Skillman, if I'm not mistaken, and Boston was playing on the radio. And I said, yeah, my dad used that song to teach me English. And this woman said, for 6 years, you've told me that your dad was not a good father. But every time that you describe what he did for you, you just tell me beautiful things. She was herself, well, she wasn't a teacher then. She has studied pedagogy. So she said, and everything that I've studied in pedagogy, your father was doing right. And you know what? I still remember the intersection, the traffic light, the song we were listening to. I just began crumbling tears.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, Molly, after listening to that song and to her words, I began experiencing such healing that now I carry only the joyful memories of my dad. But that is something that this former spouse left in my life. Of all the things that I remember that were not good, this was
Yeah.
such a gift. She brought me that
A new
gift of
perspective on that
a new
relationship.
perspective. And you know what's
Yeah.
what's amazing to me is that music was at the core of it, because it was me listening to a song, telling her about what this song meant to me, and that's what brought it alive. So it's just impressive how music can have all these strong emotional connections to life. I was talking to my daughter yesterday because she was interviewed for this podcast show as well, which is obviously focused on the stories of life and family of people that love music. And she was just telling me a lot of musical memories. And one of them is how much she enjoyed watching the Cyndi Lauper performance that we watched when you guys played at Gas Monkey.
Cool.
And, yes. Let me tell you one
you know
thing.
what? That was so awesome to see all your huge family there. Everybody from out of
Huge
town,
family.
in town. Oh, you had
True.
you were a
You're
big
right.
part of our crowd that night, Wilmer.
That's right. That's right. We had a couple of my wife's nieces flying in from Idaho. And as soon as they told us they were coming, I said, I got to go take them somewhere fun. You know, with the lockdown and everything, neither them or us had been out for like a year and a half or something, maybe about 14 months. And I said, I got to find something. So I began asking them. The first text I sent them is, do you guys like concerts? And they said, yeah. And then I began sending them questions, do you like Iron Maiden? They said, what is that? Because there was an Iron Maiden tribute band playing. So they didn't sign up for that. But then I said, do you guys know Cyndi Lauper or INTXS? And they said, yeah, we've heard the songs. I mean, they're not huge music fans, I guess. But they say, we've heard the songs. So I said, I'm going to grab myself a table for 8.
Nice.
And all 8 of us came to that show, including my then, if it was in May, my son was still 5 years old. It was an amazing show, Molly. What do you remember about that show? I guess it must have been the first show in about a year for you guys as well.
That's actually one of my most favorite shows. It seems like the smaller ones have the biggest energy. At least the smaller ones that we've done so far. That is one of those the shows that I remember best for how enthusiastic the whole audience was. I mean, you could just feel the energy. You could feel everybody was so focused on every word, every note. Everybody was just having such a great time. And, you know, when you're up there performing, you feed off that. And so for me, that was also just, you know, that was one of our most, that's one of my most powerful shows that I can remember. You know, like I said, you were percentage wise, you were a big part of that crowd. I brought 7
people
family.
along with me. Listen, I was just so into it. I believe that must have been my 3rd tribute show, and I think they're all were in the same week. I had never paid attention to tribute bands. My daughter and I were talking yesterday. We had watched a couple of tribute bands before, and they had both been ABBA tributes. But I thought, of course,
cool.
ABBA tribute, because ABBA doesn't exist. ABBA's been gone for 20 years. You'll never see anything but a tribute band. But every time that I remember seeing tribute bands playing, I was like, why would I go watch I mean, they're not even a cover band, so they call it tribute. So they must be like below in quality of a cover band. And then you see the ticket price, $10. I said, nah, I'm not going to go. And listen, that's part of why I'm doing this show, because I want to encourage anybody who hasn't checked out a live show recently, they should catch a tribute band show. My family and I have fallen in love with them for so many reasons, which we'll be describing in this episode and others. But Molly, when we learned that WeBop was playing, when I went to the website and I saw WeBop, a Cyndi Lauper show, I was like, I need to catch that, because the issue with the real artists, well, not I shouldn't say real artists, with the original performers of the original material, is that they charge this, you know, market fair value prices, you know, fair market value prices of $60, $80 a piece. And that's fine. But I'm not going to be able to take 4 kids at $80 a piece. And
or your entire family, you know, an 8-top table.
So I never even considered going to a Cyndi Lauper show, because as well, I knew her mostly from her mid-80s output. I was not, you know, a fan that I am aware of her albums. I have sometimes heard them, and I'm like, okay, it's not my style of music anymore. So when I went to your show, I was just hoping to hear a couple of songs, and I cannot believe you played them both. You played one called All Through the Night, which is by far one of my favorite ballads of all time. And then you closed the show. But before we go to the one that you closed the show with, why don't you talk to us about All Through the Night? What about singing those ballads? They seem to be very hard to sing. I'm not a singer, so please illustrate us how hard it is to sing those songs.
Ballads are more difficult than the non-ballads. the band falls out a little bit more, the lead vocal has to come up front more. So you want to be clean. You want to make sure you hit those notes just right. So there's a little more pressure, when it comes to the ballads, just to make sure you're hitting all those notes right. And the other thing is when you're doing a tribute, at least the way that I do it, I try to get the voice right also.
And you certainly
the
do.
way she sings.
I've heard
thank
that
you. I
song
appreciate
no
it.
less than 500 times. And I know it because I can look it up in my iTunes song count. And when I heard you sing it, I was like, this is better. This is better than the live performance that is officially available from Cyndi Lauper. And I mean, you do an amazing job.
Yeah,
so I wanted to ask, how much do you rehearse those songs?
A lot. I always struggle with lyrics. My memory is really bad. So that's something I always have to go over and over again. But the voice, I also want to make sure I get down how she sings those notes and those words. Because I just want it to be as close as possible. In my mind, that's what a tribute should be. Is trying to become that singer or that band.
Yes.
And so I spend a lot of time working on that voice. So
now, when you say about what a tribute should be and trying to offer at least that stage presence and the musical accuracy, what kind of thought process, and having been in stage, I'm really interested about what you can say, what kind of thought process or preparation goes through your mind to become the Cyndi Lauper persona on stage for those 40-45 minutes?
Oh, I like to watch her interviews. So I can, I can watch how she moves, how she talks, how she interacts with other people, try to get the attitude down. Basically like how she interacts with other people, her, her spirit. So that's a lot of times, other than rehearsing the actual songs, I go over interviews to sort of, and then try to put myself in her shoes.
That's refreshing to hear, because I've never had the opportunity to socialize with you. I've seen you at the shows where, of course, you're doing sound check and then performing the music, and then another band comes on and we don't get a chance to talk. So I've never talked to you in person outside of seeing you on stage, and I feel like you're not the same person, because when you're on that stage, you do become Cyndi Lauper. You do capture her essence.
That's what I try to do. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not the same person as Cyndi Lauper is, and she's an amazing person too. She's got a wonderful attitude, and spirit and drive, but no, I'm not. I am not Cyndi Lauper. That is for sure. But so that's what I want to strive for when I go up on stage. It's like, I'm paying tribute to her, so I want to be as close to her as possible. But I'm also doing it for the people in the audience that want to see Cyndi Lauper. You know, I mean, they know they're not seeing Cyndi Lauper, but surely they want to see as close to possible, right? So.
But here's the thing, Molly. For a moment, and I'm not doing this because I'm talking to you or BSing you. For a moment when you're watching your performance, if you close your eyes, the music just flows perfectly with what you'd expect at a Cyndi Lauper show. And yet when you open your eyes, the way you conduct yourself on that stage, and also, the custom and attention to detail that all the musicians play, it's unbelievable, except, of course, Jay, who is rocking the heck out of those drums. I love watching Jay perform right behind you, because he is such an energetic drummer that brings so much life to it.
He puts on his own show back there. Yeah, he's crazy.
And I'm looking forward to talking to him about that in a future episode. But when it comes to you,
you should.
I love what you do. Even the banter in between songs, even the tone of voice that you use, you articulate. I'm sure that you pull from all your experience as an actress to bring it alive, because listen, I went to the first show that you guys performed because I was desperate to go to shows. I would have gone anyway. But a few weeks later, I had to go and see you again. And you remember that. And
I'm glad we got you as a fan, Wilmer.
I am a fan. I'm your number one fan.
Thank you, Wilmer.
I'm glad you laughed. So I remember. And here's the thing, Molly. For WeBop band, I did something that I have not done for any other band yet. it's partly your fault because you don't have T-shirts available yet.
I know.
Talk about that.
But
What do you remember?
You inspire me, Wilmer. You inspire me. Oh gosh, I'm such a perfectionist. Like I spend a lot of time on costumes and finding things to make Cyndi Lauper costumes, and I want our merchandise and our T-shirts to be like perfect. And so I've come up with designs. I've got all the artwork, but it's like, who can give me the best T-shirts for the fans? I don't want to end up with like, material that's like, meh, I want it to be like one of their favorite T-shirts. So it's got to be a great T-shirt. But I mean, without costing an arm and a leg, of course, because, we do this virtually for free. This is coming out of our pockets, So I just, just trying to find the vendor for the perfect WeBop T-shirts. That's the only thing holding me back right now.
Okay.
Because I'm so excited. Every time I think about it, I'm so excited.
Well, now I'm a little bit scared about coming again with my T-shirt because you're going to be thinking, if I had designed that, I would have changed this. I would have changed it.
But hey, you know what? Yours is an original, Wilmer. That's the thing. Nobody is going to have a T-shirt like yours.
Well,
yours is a Wilmer original.
Except
it's the first one. Except Jay. Exactly.
He saw it and he said, hey, man, can you get me one?
I need one of those.
Yes. Now, they're different because mine has the large logo in the back, and I believe with his, we did the WeBop in the whole front. But This is what I did. I went to your website, and I pulled it from there. Both the name of the band and the silhouette. Were those your designs, Molly?
Yes, they were.
Tell me about it. How do you come up with those ideas? I mean, I think you're drawing from the She's So Unusual pose, right?
That silhouette. I created that silhouette from the pose that she's in on the She's So Unusual album cover. Okay. And then the logo itself is just, it's just kind of a throwback to 80s logos. Just the sort of designs that you saw back then in the 80s. So.
Yeah. Well, that seems to go as well with what the other guys in your band wear when you're performing WeBop.
Yeah. Oh, I actually coach them on what to wear because it's like, hey, I'm going to spend a lot of time on my costumes, so I'm going to need you guys to look pretty authentic too. So, I've given some hints here and there about what they should wear.
Okay. How did they feel the first time when they were like, hey, we were just going to be playing the guitar and bass, were you not going to dress up?
No, they're totally fine with it. They were 100% willing. Sander really throws himself into it. Like Sander's good at coming up with ideas on his own, like his jumpsuit and his beret. Yes. Jay's really, really good at he says, how do you like this T-shirt? What about these pants? He likes to get my input on it because he wants to look authentic as well. Carrie's like, some white jeans and I found that jacket that he wears. I found it at Dallas Vintage. On off of 75. I like going in there. That's some real fun vintage stuff in there. I found that there, so he's like, "Yep, I'll go get that." And Nick's now got Nick is our keyboardist. He's now got a kilt that
yes, that's right.
I finally managed him to talk him into getting. He was like, I'll do it, yay! But I had to keep bugging him about it a little bit.
Did you have to find a video? Because I'm trying to think, what's the connection between a kilt and Cyndi Lauper?
Okay, so another thing that I did was I bought T-shirts for one, when we performed at, let's see, where was that? I think it was Gas Monkey Bar and Grill again. We performed there one time, and do you know how the whole WrestleMania, that tie with Cyndi Lauper?
No.
Like please. She's actually sort of responsible for WrestleMania.
Really? Well, tell us that story.
On a flight, she was in first class with a man named Lou Albano. Okay. Captain Lou Albano, which was a big name in wrestling back in the 80s. He was managing at that time. And he's also a character. He, had a crazy sense of style. He had a crazy sense of style. He was very unique. He had like this grizzly hair, and he put rubber bands in his beard. And he had earrings, big earrings.
A huge stage presence then.
Oh yes. Oh yes. I mean, he's in wrestling. You got to have a huge stage presence if you're in wrestling. So he.
Are you telling me
he and
that,
she.
that the fighting is not the most important thing? The beating the other guys up is not more important than the stage presence?
No, of course it is. Of course it is. Of course it is. But before and after, it's all about the stage presence because it's real, right? Wrestling's real. We don't want to say that it's not. But she and Captain Lou just became friends on this flight because their personalities gelled so quickly. And then I guess somehow in their discussions they talked about how she could manage a female wrestler and he would manage a female wrestler, and they would have a wrestling match with both their wrestlers. Wow. And so they really pumped up this show. And I cannot remember what it was called, but it was like the second one was called The Brawl to End It All. I wish I could remember the first one, but the first match, Cindy's wrestler, her female wrestler, won. And so there's much trash talk. She would go on interviews and talk about it. And then they had a second match where his wrestler won. And then there was a third match, and that was WrestleMania. That was the first WrestleMania. And Hulk Hogan was there. All the big, some big wrestlers were there. So she's friends with all these huge wrestlers who are just, the big stars in the, big throwback stars in that industry. She's huge, big fans with all them. And so since she has that wrestling tie, I bought all the guys a different wrestler t-shirt. I got Mr. T for Sander, and I got Hulk Hogan for Kerry, etc.
So
and then I wore a WrestleMania. Well, okay, so Nick, I wanted him to be. Oh gosh, of course I'm drawing a blank right now.
Now Nick is the keyboard player.
Now I gotta look it up. He's the keyboard player, and I'm going to look this up because I got to tell you what this, for some reason I'm drawing a blank.
It's the beauty of being recorded and being able to edit before we release it.
Right? I can do research while I'm on this podcast.
This is not live. This is not live. This is not live. This will be trimmed out later. Just for the fun of it, I'm going to leave all this crazy, silly dialogue in it. I'm not going to edit it out.
Hey, why not? Why not?
Yeah, we're capturing the real Molly here.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Hold on just a second.
Go right ahead.
There it is. It comes right at the top. Cyndi Lauper and wrestling. Let's see.
So you use Google Cyndi Lauper and wrestling. That's something that I would have never thought of. Like, if somebody tells me, think of 100,000 words that you're going to Google right next to Cyndi Lauper. And I don't think wrestling would have been in that 100,000 word list.
Exactly. Let's see. One wrestling interview. Let's see. Still trying to... Rowdy Piper. Rowdy Piper. That was him. So another big wrestler back in the day in the 80s was Rowdy Piper. And he would wear a kilt. He'd wear a t-shirt that said Roddy Piper on it, and then he would wear a kilt. And then he created like an interview show also. So he did a lot of the interviews with all the wrestlers and all that. So he interviewed Cyndi also. So that was my inspiration for Nick's costume. I got him a Rowdy Piper t-shirt, and then I wanted him to wear the kilt with that. So now he's got, and that's kind of an 80s thing too, more of a 90s maybe, but he's got a kilt to go with that t-shirt.
I certainly hope that whoever gets to see your next show will Google you and Google interview with Molly, and they find this podcast, because I would love for them to know these details when they see you guys on stage. I mean, I just thought it was part of like the 80s thing, and even my wife said, look, that guy's wearing a Mr. T-shirt.
And
so, but I had no idea about the kilt. And
that's her tie with wrestling,
How did that conversation go when you first brought it up to the band?
Sorry, I've got dogs.
That's
hey,
okay,
sir. No, sir. I knew they weren't going to be quiet the whole time.
Well, they've lasted a long time so far. So how did that conversation go? How did that conversation go the first time that you say, hey guys, why don't we design some sort of stage customs? And Nick, I thought that you should wear a kilt.
I'm not good at asking. That's the thing. Like,
all
the guys have pretty much given me license. They're like, hey, you're Cyndi Lauper. This is your band. You call the shots. And so, none of them complained when I made basically like these outfit catalogs for them. And, I Googled and copied and pasted and glued these like outfit ideas for them. None of them complained. And, when I said, hey, because of her wrestling tie, I want all you guys to wear these t-shirts. And I bought them for them. They didn't even have to go get them. They didn't even have to do the legwork and shop for them. I found all these t-shirts for them and they were like, you got it. They had no problem with it whatsoever.
Have you, in all your research, found how does the crazy Cyndi Lauper fan wear? Because I want you to design me a custom just like that.
Ooh.
And I'll wear it.
I have not, but I'll have to.
So listen, it sounds like you guys have an amazing chemistry. And
we do.
Can you tell me a little bit more about it? How did you come together with this group of guys to form whichever band you formed first? Because I believe Cyndi Lauper's WeBop band is not the first project that you guys have together. Why don't you tell me a little bit of the story about finding them, connecting with them, and saying, hey, let's play some music?
Well, I think it was when I was 40. I went to Gas Monkey live back when that was still...
To watch a show.
To watch a show, yep. A friend of mine had tickets, so I didn't really know much about it. But I knew there was an INTXS tribute band, and there was a Pretenders tribute band there. I can't remember who else. There was a couple other bands there. It was a big show. But I thought, I like that music, so heck yeah, let's do that. So I went, and when it was Carrie and Sander, doing the INTXS and everything. But they also were doing the Intenders, which was the Pretenders tribute band.
Okay.
And it turns out that their lead, the Chrissy Hines lead, that was going to be her last show, and they announced that there. They said this is going to be her last show. She's gonna focus. I think she had just had a child, her first child, so she wanted to focus on her family for a while. So she was leaving the band, and just randomly, for whatever reason, I hadn't really even performed in quite a few years, maybe 10 years. For whatever reason, as soon as they said, this is her last show, I thought, are they going to keep doing it? Will they have auditions for another Chrissy Hine, And I was like, I would love to do that. Not really. I mean, I love the music. I've heard a lot. I've heard a lot of Pretenders music, and I really like it. But they weren't among the top,
Yeah.
But I knew the music, and I was like, I know I can do that music. So why not? What's the harm? What could I lose in finding them on Facebook?
I'm only 40 years old.
Yeah,
I'm only, trying to have some fun at this age. Why not start a band?
Exactly. I had nothing to lose, Wilmer. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to get on Facebook and I'm going to see if I can find them, and I'm going to message them and see if they're, if they're going to look for another Chrissy Hines, if they're going to have auditions. And Carrie, the bass player, he's the one that answered me back, and he was like, well, we weren't really going to move on with it, but, if you want to audition, why not? So they decided to hold auditions after all, and I auditioned, and a few other people did. And it was
Chrissy Hines' role.
For the Chrissy Hines, yes, Intenders, which was their Pretenders tribute band. And so it came down to me and one other person, and they said, so while we're trying to figure this out, we also do the INTXS tribute band, and we would like to add some more backup vocals. So while we're trying to figure this out, do you want to join that band too and be backups? And I thought, why not? That's being on the stage even more, and there's like no pressure with backup vocals. Yeah. You get to be out there on stage, perform, but the pressure is not on you, And so I was like, why not? That's just even more of an opportunity to really grab some stage time. So I joined their band at the same time, and then they offered me the Chrissy Hines part for Intenders, and then it so happens that Sander, who is in both bands, he's the guitar player in both bands, and also does the saxophone for INTXS. He knew of this rock polka band called the Doggensteins, and it was just a few boys, a few dudes doing it, and he was like, we could really, pump it up with some female lead vocals. Okay. So he invited me to do a show with them, and I just did a few songs at first, and then after that, they were happy with me coming on full time.
Awesome.
So then I joined that band with them too. So, all those bands are interconnected. And they're all my band family, and we all have such great chemistry. It's been awesome finding them.
This is crazy, Molly. You went to a show, and because you heard that the singer was moving on, like not gonna continue in that role, you wrote via Facebook and ended up being in 3 bands.
Yeah, I did. Well, actually 4 now, because we're not doing INTXS anymore. But through all of that, I was able to start the Cyndi Lauper tribute band as well. Yeah.
That's
and
right.
I'm thinking about doing a Reba McEntire one.
Oh my goodness. Am I able to keep that without editing out?
She's my country hero, so yeah, that would be
Can
so
we leave
great.
that on the record without having
Heck
to edit
yeah,
it?
heck yeah.
Okay, hey
Oh my
guys,
gosh,
if
yeah.
anybody wants to go to a Reba McEntire show, begin sending messages
Oh yeah.
to the Cyndi Lauper tribute WeBop band saying, "We want Reba, we want Reba."
Yes,
and
I would
Cyndi.
love to hear how interested people would be around here to hear some
Reba
Reba
McEntire
McEntire.
has a duets album that has like 50 songs on it. No. The 50 songs CD is the greatest hits. But the duets, she doesn't have anybody from the 80s pop scene there, right? I don't think
I'll
so.
have to
She's
look
got
that
Kelly
up.
Clarkson.
Okay.
I remember that because I got that album and I love that performance. But I don't think they ever sung together. It would be interesting to find out. Now, when you joined INTXS, you began performing as Chrissy Hynde before you even guys were thinking about Cyndi Lauper.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah, because we continued that band, and instead of retiring that band, they thought, okay, well, let's continue it with Molly in the lead. So
How many shows did you
we did the INTXS. Oh, I don't remember. Not a lot. It was harder to get them booked than it was INTXS. But a decent amount. A few a year.
And how did the idea come through for the Cyndi Lauper? Was it something that you thought about pushing, or did somebody ask you, "Hey, Molly, you really can sing. Is there anything you like to sing?"
No, that was all me being pushy.
Okay, go ahead and tell us.
That was all me thinking, oh, I want to perform some more, and why not? My absolute idol of all times. Why not? Nobody's doing it. I went out and Googled Cyndi Lauper tributes, and at the time, well, the only thing I could find was there was a national act that I think they might have been called Time After Time.
Okay.
And they like I said, they're national. I caught some Las Vegas clips of theirs. I couldn't really find any others though. That and I don't think they've actually been performing for a few years now. So I thought, well, it's definitely not a flooded market. There's not a ton of Cyndi tributes out there. So I thought, well, that's probably a good thing. And she's so flamboyant, and she's such a character. There's so much about her that is performance driven. She's bright. She's got those phenomenal costumes, the awesome hair. She's loud. She's like I said, she's just a character in life and on stage, that there's so much about her to be tributed. That doesn't sound right, but there's so much meat there to really. That's a big part to sink your teeth into. It's I think that makes it, while it's more challenging, because that's even more that you have to rehearse and get right, and put even more effort into. In the end, I think it's even more satisfying, and I think it's got a lot of potential for growing. Since she's such a big personality, and so much about her performances and her performance, her tours and whatnot, her stage performances. So much of those are just about her being Cyndi. And
have you
it's a
performed out of
role to
Dallas with
play.
WeBop?
We went to New Orleans.
Oh, really?
In November. Yeah, there's a little bar called Santos.
You went to Houston as well, right? On that same road trip?
Yes, we went to House of Blues in Houston, and we went to New Orleans, a place called Santos. That was also one of my most favorite performances. It was a small venue, but it was packed, and everybody there was singing along at the top of their lungs, and they were into it. It was so great.
Were they singing along at the top of their lungs to every Cyndi Lauper song, knowing almost every single lyric?
Not like my number one fan was.
Okay, well, I
Like
don't care. If they
he's got
were, I
like
was going to
he's
tell
got
you,
all the
I
lyrics down.
need to go there again. I need to go there and join them
Yes,
because I
get in
want to
front
sing.
and yes, direct the
That's
crowd.
That is amazing. That's great to hear that Cyndi Lauper's music has this longevity and it's still with us because, like I said, there's a couple of songs, especially the ballads. I mean, we all love her fun music, and I'm so happy to when I see it play along in movies and stuff. But those two songs, All Through the Night and Time After Time, are just unbelievable.
Time After
Tell
Time.
me, what did the guys send? Do you remember anything about the reaction about when you said, "Hey guys, I decided I want to play a Cyndi Lauper tribute, and you're gonna play the music for me"? Do you remember that moment?
Oh, they were 100% in, like
they just
automatically,
like, wow, that sounds
immediately.
great.
Like they never thought about it as an idea, but they were like, okay.
All
So
right.
yeah,
What was
the
the first
Intenders
song that
was
you
kind
guys
of wrapping
rehearsed?
up at that time anyway. Ooh. Okay, so I know we did the biggest five first. So I don't know,
Okay.
like technically, I don't know which of those five was the
Let's see.
very first one they
For
were.
some of
but
the
of
audience
course,
that may not be familiar, I'll tell you my
Yeah.
biggest five. My biggest five starts with All
Okay.
Through the Night. My biggest five continues with Time After Time. Yes, the ballads. My biggest five continues with Money Changes Everything. And my biggest five would continue with I Drove All Night. Is
that
in
wasn't
your
one of
biggest
our
five?
first five.
So
It
tell me
wasn't
about
one.
your
We
first
do
five.
we have that one in the catalog, but it's not. It wasn't one of the big five.
Well, fair enough.
I
It's
think
not a
all,
song that people associate with her. You think more of Roy Orbison's song with I Drove All Night.
Yeah, and Celine Dion also did a cover of that song.
True.
So
She
you
did
know,
it much
it
later.
really depends on the fan which version they've heard.
So we're talking about
so we
WeBop
did.
and Girls Want to Have Fun.
Yes. So
Okay.
that would complete the five.
What
Yep.
about True Colors? Let's
We
make
did
a-
that
a
on our
big
next
six.
rehearsal. No, we did that on our next rehearsal.
Okay, so
We
your
stuck
first
with She's So
rehearsal
Unusual on the first
was
one. Yeah.
really She's So Unusual.
The biggest five from that album. Yep.
That's, well, what kind of biggest five? This could be the biggest five of the whole year. I mean, it's an
Right.
amazing album. You know, I have a special edition of that album because I love it so much. It's the 30th anniversary edition that
Oh, cool.
that's the one actually that when I went to the show, I was just shaking and I mean because I don't have
Oh,
the original
okay. Yeah.
But the
Very
difference
cool.
is it's got a white backdrop instead of the street, kind of like blue tone
Yes.
street. But inside that special edition, and since you are a big fan of Cyndi Lauper, I must let you take a look at it. It's got a lot of the outtakes from the photo shoot.
Oh,
It's just beautiful,
cool.
and it even has a little. I don't know if you call it stencils, but these things that come with little, 3-4 inch tall dresses that you could cut and put on top
Like
of
paper
things.
dolls, kind of.
Yes,
Yeah, like
yes,
paper
that's
dolls.
the thing.
Mhm,
And
yep.
of course, I keep it intact because to me, the value. Some CDs some vinyls I buy and don't even open the seal. But in this one, I had to look at it, and it's just it's.
Oh
it's a
yeah, you got to
beautiful
see all that
piece.
stuff inside.
Yeah,
That's
I gotta bring
cool.
it to
That
you.
is
Maybe
so
I'll trade it
cool.
for a ticket to a show.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe
I
I'll
don't
trade
know.
it for an
I don't know.
autograph.
I think your album's way more. Your album's way more valuable than a ticket to our
I didn't
show.
offer
You
the
hold
album.
on to that.
I'll be at a show for a couple of hours. You can hold on to my album for a couple of
Okay.
hours.
All
It's-
right.
it
Thank
was-
you.
I was
I'll
not
get
afraid of-
inspiration from it.
Yeah.
Well, if
yeah.
nothing else, I need to see it so I can find one for myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I think that you can still find it because I found it like 4 years ago. It was released in
Okay.
2013. So
It's
when you were
amazing what you can find online. So
It is. It is. You know, we're so privileged because I remember, like, for example, the Boston LP. My father used to own it, but I'm talking about 1983, 1984 when I remember. When he and my mom split, he obviously took all his records with him. He didn't leave them with me. And to be fair, he was already helping me build my own LP collection, which had the likes of U2, Judas Priest, and other stuff that was different.
yeah, very cool.
But once I moved, I also got married, I got divorced another time, and I lost track of all my records. For about 15 years, I thought, I'll never have them again. And
Right.
now online, you can find it. So it's
You can-
just a beautiful opportunity.
Yeah.
You get almost anything. You can even look for the vintage tape, and eventually you'll find it. Now, now that we're talking about the advantages of online, what do you think about streaming songs versus the opportunity to purchase music? Because that has certainly impacted the industry, obviously, especially songwriters and artists that have had record deals, have even lost them. What are your thoughts on that, Molly? Are you a big fan of streaming? Are you still a person that buys physical material?
I'd say both are really cool. At the beginning of this, I mentioned to you that I'm more of a song person, a song to song person rather than an album person. So it's actually the whole streaming concept and being able to look up anything on YouTube is really great, because if you just want to play just a random song, or you want to own a random song at any given time, you can just pop on there and grab it,
Yeah, sure.
or you can do the same thing with the full album. But I also, I still, I still value the idea, being able to hold, I'm the same with books. I
Okay.
still like to have that hard copy that I can hold, and it has, just being able to touch. It's got that really gets the memories flowing when you've
Yeah.
got that
Yeah,
actual hard copy.
the tactile experience of holding a record is huge. I remember back in 1989, maybe probably even as far as 1991, everybody was getting CDs. And I was a staunch advocate for never buying a single CD. I said, I'm not going to buy the
Gotcha.
CD because, well, first of all, the LPs were still half the price. The CDs were more expensive.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I want to hold on the 12-inch cardboard cover, look at it, flip it around, and
Yeah.
look at the whole back
That's
picture.
history.
That's right. That's right. So tell me a little bit. I know that you're not an album person, but do you have some albums that you love that, say, for example, if your house were on fire and you had the chance to only rescue one album, which one would it be?
Just one? Well, it would be my She's So Unusual.
But that's a tape.
But no,
That
no,
fits
I
in your
have the
pocket.
album as well.
Oh, you do. That's awesome.
I
That's
do have the
awesome.
album as well. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I need to put my cassette tape right next to the album, the record, so that I can grab both at the same time if need
And you
be.
know what else? You need to take a picture of that so that we can share it on our Instagram, because we're going to have an Instagram
Okay.
for this podcast, and we
Yeah.
want to share musical memories and musical tributes with people, and we got to have that. But let's assume that you took the record and the tape to rehearsal because you were a perfectionist,
Yep.
focusing on the songs. That album is already safe. Which one would be the next one that you rescue?
Well, I also have a Reba McEntire
Okay.
album.
Is
So
any specific
I
album?
take that too. Well, let me grab it and I'll show you.
Awesome.
First off, here's the Cyndi. Here's the Cyndi.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
there's the back.
Beautiful,
Original.
beautiful. The back with the shoes.
Yep. And then the back with the shoes.
Yeah,
Yes.
it reminds me of the cover of the
Van
newest
Gogh
album,
shoes.
Bring It to the Brink. Have you seen the cover of that album, the newest one by Cyndi Lauper? I believe it's like 6 years old, but
I
it's
have
called Bring
not.
It to the Brink. It's very similar to those shoes, but it's in a different pose. Reba. Okay, is that a
Yeah.
greatest hits
What was
compilation?
that? That was. No, it is not.
Really? Because of the font, it looks like the
no.
font from the Icon series.
And it could be. It could
Okay.
be, but it's not saying that it is. This was actually a gift from my boyfriend for Christmas.
That's what I was
so
seeing. It's got a little bow.
That's
there,
why it's got
green
the bow on it.
Okay, okay. So now that you brought up the B word, what about him? Has he come to your shows?
He comes to everyone that he can.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, he's got kids, so he has kids. He has kid duty some weekends when I've got a show, and then sometimes if I'm going out of town, also that might not be in the cards for him traveling. But yeah, he's hugely supportive.
So-
He is also a musician,
Okay.
and he's in a band. But he does originals. Yeah, he's in a band called Safety Meeting,
Safety Meeting, I
and
haven't
they
heard
do
that.
originals.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
he's
hey,
a-
if you're listening,
you have
guys,
to be big into the
Safety
original
Meeting.
scene.
Look it up. Safety
Meeting.
Okay. Free
Yep,
promo
yeah,
for
and,
Molly's boyfriend.
That's right. That's right,
Now-
Mike.
Is Mike his
He's
name?
a
Hello, Mike?
keyboardist. Yes, Mike he's a keyboardist. He's brilliant. Have you heard of Dragon Ball Z?
Yes, the
The
anime
Japanime
series.
cartoon.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, so he composed with him and two other musicians, composed the American version of the soundtrack, the music for the Dragon Ball Z's.
Okay, so we're
all
talking
of the
about somebody
episodes.
whose career's accomplishment in music are quite there.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, he
that's
did that.
awesome.
Yeah. So for the American versions of the cartoons or the the Japanime episodes, he did the music. He and
That's
his two music his friends they're actually in a band, SSJ. They composed that music for the American version. So isn't that
you know
cool?
what?
They've been
We were-
they've been to
we were-
some conventions and everything, and they've played live there.
wow, we were just talking about the advantages of the internet, and one of them is that as soon as this interview is over, I'm going to look it up on the internet and listen to that music. So when you were talking about Japanime at the beginning, I got to tell you, first, I have never heard the word Japanime. I have heard Japanese anime, but you know, it was easy to figure it out.
Yeah, it's legit. I'm not going to take credit for making that up.
Okay. It made me think of my favorite cartoon when I was growing up. It was a Japanime cartoon from a huge robot called Messenger. Have you ever heard of him?
I have not. That's not one that I've heard of.
If you're a Japanime fan, I got to find it for you, and I'll post a picture on Instagram, because when people talk about cartoons and all that, and when even kids, like when I have kids in my classes drawing Dragon Ball Z stuff or any other Japanese stuff, I remember when I used to draw Messenger Z. That was actually his name. I think the naming in the United States came to be like Fulcrum or Voltron or Voltron.
Okay. Oh, Voltron?
Voltron.
Yeah, I've heard of Voltron.
You see the one that has two lining bolt-shaped things on his chest?
Yeah, and it's like
Voltron.
five ships or whatever that become one Voltron character. Yes.
See, everything gets lost in translation, because to me he was Messenger, not Voltron.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
no, here it's Voltron, yeah.
For 10 years I looked it up on eBay, and I'm like, wow, that series must have been a hit only in my country, because they don't have anything on eBay until later.
Voltron's huge.
Yeah, well, see, I didn't know about that. It's amazing how many things get lost in translation. But going back to music, has your boyfriend ever promised that he'll bring his kids to your show? Or is that going to be making it too official?
Oh, they've been.
Oh, my goodness. Tell me about it.
No, they've been.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. 'Cause he and I have been together for a couple years now. But they, and this is, so before I had met them in person, he brought them to our show at, I want to say House of Blues. I think it was the House of Blues show. He brought them there.
But you were already dating.
They didn't know why they were there.
Okay. They said that is bringing
we
you
were.
somewhere.
But I had not met them yet. But he brought them to the show, and they did not know why they were there. They were like, "Dad, what are we doing here? What are we doing here?" They're in high school. One's about to graduate and go off to college. So they're not little bitty or anything like that. But yeah, so that was their first impression of me, was the redheaded chick, being silly on stage, basically. So.
Well, but I think that he had a plan. He said, "Hey guys, will you think your father is cool if I get to date the singer on stage sometime?" I'm sure he said that somewhere. It was a dare. That's amazing.
Exactly.
Moment. So we've talked a little bit about INTXS, but not too much. And we're going to have to be calling our conversation coming to a close. But I guess we're going to have to follow up, because I feel that there's so many things that I'd love to talk to you about.
Okay.
But before we're
part 2.
Yeah, definitely. Will you be up for that?
Yeah.
So before we move on, I wanted to ask you, what are your most immediate plans for the band? Like, when you think about the year of 2022, we're recording this in January, not necessarily about concerts that you have booked, but when you sit down and dream, where would I want to see WeBop at the end of the year? What are your plans, hopes, and expectations?
Well, so the unfortunate thing about WeBop is that we started it right before COVID. And we haven't been able to really dig in and get a foothold in the tribute band community. We've gotten gigs, obviously, thankfully, and thanks to all the other tribute bands who have called us and said, "Hey, we've got a show. You want to open for us?" Like, yes, please, thank you. But unfortunately, the COVID thing has really kept us kind of on the down low, because every time we think, okay, we're going to get some gigs and get out there, there's another wave or something, and it's like, oh no, we're not. So it's just bad timing for us for when we started. So hopefully, I'm and this is for many more reasons, just to get, than WeBop getting out there, but hopefully 2022 is the year that COVID, we get a grip on it, and everybody's a lot safer and healthier. We can all get back out there. And so if that happens, and that's just for the betterment of everybody's health and their lives and their families. But if that happens, then I'm hoping, as a bonus, we can get WeBop out there more again, and get more shows than we've been kind of averaging the last couple of years. So that's really my plan, is just to start over for the third time, because this will be about the third time. So every year we try to, we're starting over and we're going to get out there. So start over for the third time and hopefully really grow it more substantially than we have over the last couple of years. And the ultimate goal is to get to Vegas. Okay. I want to take WeBop to Vegas at some point. So I don't know if that'll happen in 2022, but that would be amazing.
But I'll tell you what,
gosh.
If anybody listening to this podcast episode any time in 2022 or even 2023 has gone to Vegas, knows a promoter in Vegas, knows a venue owner in Vegas, send them to this podcast episode so they get to meet the fine Molly Fine. Is that your real last name, by the way?
It is. Yep,
when I first found you, I thought, is that a stage name? Because she's certainly fine presence on stage, so maybe that's a stage name. And your profile,
right? It works, doesn't it? Yeah. It is a great stage name, but it is my real name.
Molly Fine presents the songs of Cyndi Lauper. Hey, there is this album that she releases called The Body Acoustic. It's got several songs reinterpreted. Have you heard that album?
I have not heard all of it, but I know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. Have you heard All Through the Night, the version there?
No, and as soon as we're done with this, I'll go out and listen to it.
Please do. It's done with Shaggy, and Shaggy
because I can imagine that's really beautiful.
Well, it's great, beautiful. It's to me kind of like a very sweet, tender word that I would reserve for the original ballad version. This one ventures into reggae with some freestyle at the end.
Oh, okay.
When I saw the name,
I think I know what you're talking about. Yes,
I thought that's crazy, but every time I hear that song, it's just beautiful. And I'm gonna get practicing my Shaggy lyrics, and I'm going to send an email to the WeBop Facebook page, and I'm gonna say, "Are you guys holding auditions for a special duet of the reggae version of All Through the Night?" That's going to be my goal for WeBop for this year.
There you go. Okay, all right, and then you and I can. There we go. No, I think I heard
you scared me now. Now I got stage fright.
Oh no, Wilmer! The pressure is on now. The pressure is on.
Hey,
I think I heard a reggae version of her "Girls Just Want to Have Fun." I watched a live version of a Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and I think it was it wasn't full reggae, but she definitely threw some in there. So that was an interesting version.
That song has been reinvented in so many ways. And I was just listening a short time ago that when she first heard the song, because it was not written by her, but when it was first brought to her attention, she hesitated. She wasn't sure, because I haven't heard the original demo, but she said that the original demo was a little bit more demeaning of women. And she decided to take a listen and then reinterpret it in the way that we know it, which is quite empowering, because it makes, girls are in charge of their own time or their own decisions, and they just want to have fun. And what are you going to do about that? So, Molly, I'm not a girl, but I'll say we girls want to have fun. And we're going to be having fun watching the next WeBop show. If anybody is listening after the Legacy Hall show, where can they go to find about future dates for WeBop?
Well, actually, we already do have another one booked. We'll be in Louisville at Tees on February 18th. We are opening for Cherry Bomb. That's one of my favorite tribute bands in the area. Yes. I love them. And for future shows, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on
WeBop Band.
WeBop Band. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yep. Who manages those pages?
Facebook. Well, we've got a website too.
Okay. Who manages the website? Who manages the social media presence? Are you the one involved in
Sander.
that? Okay.
Sander is I need to help him out, because I know it's a big job for him, and I need to get in there and get my get my hands dirty with getting the soch on with him.
Because
right now, Sander's our social media hero.
Okay, let's send a shout out to Sander. Hope to have him sometime soon in this podcast.
Sander man.
Interview. So before we close, you just mentioned Cherry Bomb, and definitely one of the goals, one of the reasons why this podcast was born was to honor the tribute scene, to honor the professional musicians that play amazing shows. Since you mentioned Cherry Bomb, whether people listen to this show before or after, listen to this episode before or after that performance that you guys are going to have, why don't you tell us a little bit about Cherry Bomb? You said it's one of your favorites. Well, how so?
Well, it's a tribute to Joan Jett. And they've expanded. Now it's a tribute to a lot of, the powerful female artists. They're tributing like even more than just Joan Jett now. And really for me, my favorites in the tribute band world are the ones that have the female leads.
Okay.
I just want to support, my fellow ladies.
That's amazing.
We're a little outnumbered in the tribute band world. There are definitely more male leads than there are females, and all the ones that I know and I've caught their shows, they have such great voices and they're such great performers, and they are nailing it. They're so good. So yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Cherry Bomb, Prima Donna, Just Like Pink, Cheap Trickster, Even It Up, and Dreams Unwind, which is a Stevie Nicks tribute. Those are,
each and every one
I've
of those
worked with
bands.
all of them. They're so great.
I saw
They
Just
are
Like
so
Pink
great, so.
Twice. Once when they were with Reputation, the Taylor Swift tribute, that my daughters, especially one, is a huge Taylor Swift fan. And by huge, I mean huge. She's got all the vinyls. She's got even some cassette tapes. She's got like 14 T-shirts. And I got a huge credit card debt under her name for the Taylor Swift.
Yay!
But as a father of two girls who are currently 12 and 10, I am so excited to bring into those shows. I went 2 weeks ago. Today we're recording on January 28th. 2 weeks ago, the Iron Maidens, a national touring band made up of females who play the guitar, the bass, the drums, tributing the music of Iron Maiden. And tonight, Molly, as soon as we're done, I'm going to head to Amplified. It used to be Gas Monkey Bar and Grill, but now it's Amplified. And there's going to be Blonde Sabbath, which is a female-fronted tribute to Black Sabbath, followed by Poisonous, a female-fronted tribute to Poison. And with that, we're going to close with Crude and Tattooed. So I'm going to watch three tribute bands that I've never seen live, including two that are female-fronted. So this is
that
serendipity.
is so cool.
Closing the
All right, you got to
talking
tell me
to
about
you,
the costumes and the hair.
Okay, I'll take pictures.
Yeah. I want to
pictures.
see all that. That's very cool. That is so cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Molly. What else can our audience do to support your music, your band's music, and the tribute scene in Dallas? Go ahead and tell them. What can they do to support?
Just come on out. That's really it. There's so much on Facebook. There's so many pages dedicated to telling you all the different shows that are playing in and around Dallas. So the best thing that you can do is just come on out. Because we're not really selling albums or anything like that. We're not selling music on any streaming platforms. A lot of us have merchandise, but that's not what is keeping us doing it. What's keeping us doing it is performing. So we just want people out there that come and watch and have a great time.
And as
That's,
someone who's been to
that's
your
why we
shows-
do it. We just to watch people out there having a great time.
Yes, and as someone who has been to your shows more than once, I can say that WeBop band truly rocks. You should call it We Rocks.
Thank
man.
you, Wilmer.
Molly,
okay.
It's been
We Rocks
great
band.
talking to you. WeBop band rocks. This is the Live
Yes.
Rocking Podcast. Love Live Rocking Podcast. I get confused, but you know what? That was the point of naming it like that. I wanted people to think about love and live rocking,
Yep.
or love live
Yep.
rocking,
Love.
because it's about the
Yes.
love of life and the love of live music. Thank you so much, Molly Fine from WeBop Band, and this was our episode talking about WeBop Band, the music of Cyndi Lauper, and anything Molly. Catch her on her Facebook and social media presence under WeBop Band. Thank you again, Molly. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you, Wilmer. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.